little children. And when they sing on the dance, that's really admire them. Yes, they're singing. Chin, chin, chin. Poverty. In a bar. Poverty. Seafood mama. Poverty. Get 10 fat chickens. Poverty. And ask you for one. Poverty. And she won't give me one. Poverty. You see that girl then? Poverty. Named Dorothy. Poverty. She fat like a butter. Poverty. And she married like a job. Poverty. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Never had so little children. I'm gonna sing and dance, that's really admire them. What they're singing? On your carpet, you must be like the roses, all you need, bright and shining. You must be, and show me the one. Love the best. When I marry, I give you the ring. First the girls, second the boys. Sunday, Monday, afternoon. We will spend our honeymoon. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Never had some little children. I'm gonna sing and dance, let's really admire them. Join the singing. Hold my house on fire. You'll not run away. He run for the police to get the water. He only fire down the escalator. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Escalator, shoot, shoot, shoot. And I wipes the lady face. The lady wipes the lady face. And she fell down, and she fell down, and she fell in the ocean too. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Never had some little children. I'm really singing and the dancers really admire them. Hear them singing? Children, children, yes, mama. Where you been? Grandmama. What she give you? Bread and cheese. Where is mine? On the shelf. How big a get? All right. Hey, guess what? Pleasant good morning to you guys. It's just 4 minutes after 11 o'clock, and we're just feeling that vibes. We just got some phone calls from some people who are saying, hey, we are all set to watch you guys this morning. But guess what? Blackout in their face. Blackout out there in Guyana. Good morning to you, Mr. Caesar. Are you getting blackout where you are?
No, Mark. Good morning to you. The lights are very bright here, and I wish it was the same for my brothers and sisters down in Guyana. But unfortunately, they will have to wait a bit for that.
Well, not really waiting a bit, because they can make things happen. They are taxpayers. They can demand instead of waiting. You got to demand. They are the employers, the employees. Sorry, they employ these politicians to do their job. And when the politicians cannot do their job, they have a right to stand up and demand better. They can't just sit back and wait. They got to demand better. Look, speaking of which, I saw, and just to let our folks know that coming up at 11:30, we have the Honorable Congresswoman Clark is going to be with us in the house. So share the link, spread the word, tell the folks that your favorite female congresswoman, congressperson, female, gosh, something like a Sharma there for a moment. And I have what is called a IFLAT University lapse moment. So that is what we will have the Congresswoman in studio with us this morning. And we'll have also coming up at 11:15, which is about 9 minutes from now, Royce Ford, the Member of Parliament. He's also Shadow Minister of Legal Affairs. He will be with us for a few minutes as well. But Mr. Caesar, let me take this time out to congratulate the female team out there and their coaches. They're out there out of 191 countries. These young people were able to bring, 23rd, secure a position of 23, I believe, or maybe the 5th position. Whatever it is, they just did us all proud. And congratulations to this robotics team. They're currently in, where are they? They're currently in Singapore, enjoying themselves and representing Guyana in Singapore. Congratulations to them. I'm sure you have something to say about that team, Mr. Caesar.
Yes, Mark, indeed. Congratulations to them. They're very young people there, as you can see, and it just shows, their ability to team together and put their team first and go out there and perform at the highest of levels, representing Guyana. I must say kudos to them, Mark, and it just shows, that we have very, very intelligent people in Guyana, and we just need to provide them with the necessary resources, and we would
Talented,
be able to
talented
give
young
them.
people, talented young people indeed. They need the support of all the people, but it is sad that they just don't get the support that they should be getting. These talented young people just do not get the support, not just those who are into robotics, but young people in general. And then when they do, and they make us all proud, that is when the politicians, those who are in office, they rush and they post them up and they say, congratulations, we are all proud. But why not make these things available to the young people so that they don't have to rush to the event late? They never really got much support as they should be getting. And then they reached late into Singapore and all manner of things. And last year they couldn't make it because of some visa issues. But look where they are. Look where they are today. Congratulations to these young people again. And I agree with you, Mr. Caesar, that the regime should be supporting people more and more, especially our talented young people. Outside of that, what else is happening? Mr. Caesar, something else you saw in the papers this morning you want us to talk about briefly?
Yes, I saw something concerning, in relation to this $214 million that we keep, kind of going back and forth in relation to. I would have seen that Mr. Roysdale Ford would have made a request, requesting certain documentation, right, in relation to this $214 million. And there was a little bit of a mix-up, or there was a different point of view coming from the leader of the opposition in relation to that same $214 million. That let me just put it in layman terms, that we should it should end at that, and we shouldn't pursue any further, which Mark, I totally disagree with, and I'm going to tell you why. Listen, the opposition is also a part of the government. Okay, you don't want to give anybody absolute power. The opposition is there to provide a measure of checks and balances when we come to government. And that's one of the big reasons for having an opposition, so that one faction don't just run away with everything. So I am aligning here with Mr. Ford. I think the approach is in information on this issue, and for a thorough investigation to be done. Because what I'm seeing is that this whole thing is pointing to a middleman, someone at a lower level, Mark. And there's no one that's going to be sitting in a lower level that's going to have the rights to go out there and to negotiate with Exxon. It would be someone at the topmost level that would be performing such duties. So it's concerning, it's troubling at best,
Very,
right?
very, very troubling indeed. If you're now joining us 11 minutes after 11 o'clock in the morning, I know some of you guys are surprised to see us this morning, but we are talking about some of the things in the newspapers indeed. But Mr. Ford will be on shortly, and he is the best person to answer and to talk a little bit about this particular situation. And what Mr. Caesar alluded to earlier, it says here in the front page of the Guyana Stabrook News. It's also in the Guyana Village Voice. Don't forget to pick up a copy of the Village Voice, online, and share the Village Voice online. But this is what it's saying here, the front page of the Stabrook News. GRA tells ExxonMobil to amend financials over disputed US $240 million. And what Mr. Caesar mentioned earlier, that we saw and we know of the controversy with the PPP, this is pointing in the direction of corruption, and corruption, more and more corruption on the part of the PPPC. This is what we heard of a couple of weeks ago. Government allows Exxon to slash US $214 million in questionable costs down to just 3 million US dollars. And that is the controversy right now. But Mr. Roysdale Ford will be on with us shortly to talk about this situation and how he feels. This is, of course, a victory. This is a victory for not just Roysdale Ford, but it is a victory for the opposition, the combined opposition, all, including PPP supporters who do not agree with this government move to slash the 214 million US dollars down to 3 million. Now, briefly before we have our guest arriving on the show shortly, touch on how do you feel about the Venezuelans? We're not anti-migrants. We're not anti anybody coming to Guyana or wherever, because we ourselves, we're all over the world, and we don't want people to treat us. And so we don't want the Venezuelans to think that we are anti-Venezuelans. At least I am not, and I'm not sure that you are too. But how do you feel that with the influx of Venezuelans going into Guyana, and the PPP will play that as their master stroke to pat the voters list up?
Right. You see, Mark, and again, this is another thing that's concerning. Had the PPPC flat out won the 2020 elections honestly, we would not be in this position, where we would have had, this influx of Venezuelans coming into the country. But Mark, and I would have said this earlier, this is exactly what the influx of Venezuelans is leading to. A padded voters list, people just walking in the countries a few months before elections and being able to vote. That is absolutely not right. And I will say this again. Did the Guyanese people ever told any government official or told the government that they're willing to share their patrimony with anyone? Venezuela has been pulling oil for years, donkey years, Mark, and have one of the largest oil reserves. Do they share it with Guyana? No, they don't. We just started extracting oil, Mark. You understand me? They call Guyana the fastest growing economy. Our people continue to live in poverty, and the little patrimony that's going to be coming their way, you got to split it in 20? Come on. How fair could that be? That is absolutely not fair. And look, this is happening, Mark, just to keep the PPPC at the hem. That's the attempt here, to keep themselves at the hem, keep marginalizing and oppressing the Guyanese people that don't support them.
Yeah.
The people and listen, Mark, this is happening to their own supporters also.
That is definitely the case that has to come to a stop. But not so long ago, of course, prior to the death of Hugo Chavez, he was giving out oil to CARICOM countries and so forth and so on. He was doing his thing back then. Guyana, there was an exchange with rice and oil and all these sort of things under Chavez. And Chavez has died, and Maduro tried to continue with that relationship. But all along, they have their eyes on a piece of Guyana. They want the entire Essequibo part. And just to remind our listeners that Barra Jagdeo was prepared. This is not propaganda. Barra Jagdeo was prepared to give a piece of Guyana or all of Essequibo to Venezuela. He wanted to share in this production of oil and other stuff. Barra Jagdeo wanted to do that. Barra Jagdeo should have been charged with treason and dumped inside Lusignan prison. Barra Jagdeo is unpatriotic. These guys have not done anything to prove that they're patriotic, even with our oil wealth, even with how they treat Exxon. They treat Exxon 100% better than how they treat Guyanese nationals. It's as though Exxon gets everything, every single thing Exxon gets. Hundreds of millions of tax concessions and all manner of things. And the ordinary Guyanese folks, whether they're PPP supporters or not, have to suffer. I don't know. But let's get to the blockout issue. We're hearing that the PPP now, they're coming out to say that 27 million US dollars they're now going to spend taxpayers' money, hopefully, to prevent blackout. Your take on this, I'm not sure if you saw the article, but your take on the $27 million on this spending.
Well, listen, Mark, typically the 27 million US dollars is going to be allocated. Will it be spent there? Only God in heavens know. You know, the Public Accounts Committee, these committees, they don't even meet, and we don't know where monies are going, man. I think right now everybody probably lost track of where the monies are going. Is it going to alleviate the blackout issue, Mark? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. Listen, you need probably an additional 1 to 2 grids, to really guarantee new grids and plus maintain this old one, right? To guarantee the Guyanese people that they would be sitting day in and day out without blackout. Listen, this government is so backwards, Mark. You continue to build hotels and large buildings and all these things across the country. Don't you know that you would have to supply these buildings with electricity, man? And you already know about your dilemma when it comes to supplying electricity. And you're still going ahead and doing these things, Mark, without improving the
the gist of
infrastructure.
The gist of that $27 million US dollars, there's more to it than just what we're hearing and so forth. It's a part of the PPP scheme to continue to rip the nation of its resources, rip the nation of its financial resources, and it's got to stop. And that is where the opposition comes in. The opposition needs to be more aggressive when it comes to that. I'm told by our operator that we have Mr. Roysdale Ford. We now have Mr. Roysdale Ford with us this morning. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Mark. Good morning, Wayne. Good morning to the audience and the listeners.
Yeah, good morning. Let's get straight to the point here with regards to what's happening in the country. Your take quickly, and I know that maybe you have been observing the so-called Commission of Inquiry, the MADIA, the deaths of those 20 young people. We are seeing that the PPP is attempting to cover things up now. Your take on how the so-called Commission of Inquiry is going thus far, sir?
I believe, Mark, that in relation to that Commission of Inquiry, the government set out to engage in their usual acts of covering up and refusal to engage in transparency. But they engineered this Commission of Inquiry to give the appearance that they're being transparent. But I've been following certain segments of the evidence being given before the Commission of Inquiry, and it is clear to me that in many of the instances, it is backfiring on them. Some of the revelations are quite startling, and it's indicating ultimately a failure on the government's part to ensure that there were necessary mechanisms and the necessary programs and strategies in place to protect those young children. So I believe the government's initial plan, which is to just go through the form of a Commission of Inquiry, is to some degree backfiring on them.
It is backfiring on them. Before we get to, because you just have just a couple of minutes with us, Wayne Caesar mentioned earlier the oil, the audit, but 214 million US dollars. We'll definitely have you address that. But what is your take on the influx of Venezuelan nationals coming in? Many boats and so forth, and the PPP, obviously, that is the perception out there, want to use them to prop up the voters list so that they will get these Venezuelan nationals to vote for them. Your take, sir?
Mark, I believe that a very conservative estimate of the number of Venezuelan migrants in the country is probably in excess of 100,000 Venezuelans. We all know that the Venezuelan society is a very militarized society, and almost every citizen is trained in the use of firearms and is military trained. I find it an act of complete lunacy that the government would allow such a significant number of military trained persons to enter our country without any sort of overall national program governing them in relation to the national security interests of Guyana. And I believe that to see it only from the point of view of advancing the possibility of these persons voting for you in a fraudulent election is quite indicative of the state of the country, where personal party interest comes ahead of what is in the national interest of Guyana.
Absolutely. Well said. Before we get to the main issue that I want to ask about this morning, which is your approach and successful approach, mind you, in ensuring that the Guyanese people get their fair share out of that $214 million missing from that Exxon audit or questionable audit. Mr. Caesar, you have any question before we get to that, please, to Mrs. Ford?
Mark, at the present moment, I don't have a question for Roysdale, but I could see one coming shortly.
Yeah, Mr. Ford, let's get straight to the question, the other stuff, because we just have a few minutes with you here, and appreciate that you have taken the time out to join us this morning. Let's get straight to this here. GRA tells ExxonMobil that, hey, guess what? To amend financials over disputed $214 million. In this here, you also asked for the contract, the work contract with the Gupnath Bobby Gasai. Nothing is wrong with wanting the contract. The people, the taxpayers of Guyana need to see what this guy is being paid and what exactly is he being paid for. Once again, congratulations on this, but how far are we going to get with Exxon paying up its $214 million US dollars?
Mark, I believe that this is a very significant development, that the Guyana Revenue Authority has decided to instruct Exxon basically to amend its financials. My contribution by writing those letters to the Minister of Natural Energy or Petroleum, the Energy Minister, to put it lightly, and the Commissioner of Information, was basically, Mark, to drive home the need for transparency and accountability on the part of these entities who are in charge of our resources. I don't believe that we have had that sort of information forthcoming, and I believe that it was an important step in removing the government's haze over this very important issue.
And again, that is a good step. How confident that you'll get the information? Somebody's echoing, but how confident are you about getting the information that you've requested in terms of the contract with this consultant, Gusai?
Well, Mark, I don't see any legal impediments. I've consulted the Information Act, and there are no impediments to the government releasing this contract. But Mark, what is very important is that, in relation to what is being asked for here, in relation to 211 million US dollars, which works out to billions of Guyanese dollars, this is a very important issue. This is a considerable amount of money that could have gone to better the lives of the Guyanese people, to improve the quality of healthcare, the quality of education, water, and a number of other deficient services and needs of the Guyanese people. I'm not prepared to allow the government to get away with this. I was motivated to do this simply because, as a citizen of this country, I'm entitled to find out. And secondly, I, as a member of the opposition, the parliamentary opposition, and sitting in parliament, I have an interest and a wider interest to represent all the people of the country. And every single segment of this population, every geographical area of this population, and extending to the diaspora, wants to know exactly what took place in relation to this matter. I believe it would be deficient of me in terms of my obligation and not to make such inquiries. And I believe that we must not, in anything that we do, allow the PPP to get away with acts of corruption at all. We must not show them any lifeline.
Absolutely no lifeline at all. 26 minutes after 11 o'clock. Hopefully, Mr. Wayne Ford will have a closing question and you will respond to that as quickly as possible as we prepare to join U.S. Congresswoman Yvette Clark shortly. Here is my next concern with regard to what you're doing on behalf of the opposition, on behalf of the people of Guyana, holding the corrupt PPP regime accountable. And that is what you guys are there for. holding them accountable. We need to see the work contract of this guy, Gosai. What exactly is he doing? What is he being paid for? We know that the PPP is trying to throw him under the bus, but that's besides the point. We need to see his contract. It's an obligation. But an email coming out from the opposition, the office of the opposition, is basically diminishing your effort, your good effort, mind you, on behalf of the Guyanese people. This report says here from the leader of the opposition office, while the OLO, which is the office of the leader of the opposition, fully supports the rights of our members of parliament to seek information on government affairs, we wish to declare that as a political entity, we have absolutely no interest in the audit probe report and in Mr. Gusai's employment contract, as have been requested of the government by one of our MPs. As we have stated previously, the probe is an insult to the intelligence of Guyanese and blah, 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 blah. Here is the leader of the opposition leader attempting to diminish your effort, of course, in going out and fighting on behalf of the Guyanese people. A lot of people are surprised by that statement, and it shows the disunity within the opposition. Your take on that, please, sir.
Well, Mark, I would respond by making two statements. First, I would like to reiterate my commitment to the Guyanese people and to the commitment of my party, which stands for transparency, good governance, and accountability. And what I did there was completely in accordance with that. Secondly, Mark, as a trained attorney at law, I will make reference to a Latin maxim that we would have learned in tort law. Res ipsa loquitur. It means it speaks for itself. The leader of the opposition statement speaks for itself. I believe that we need to focus on good governance and accountability as a parliamentary opposition.
Well said, Mr. Ford. Well said. And listen, I am aligning with you on this, and I would have said it on the show earlier, that the opposition is there to make sure that the government is kept in check. There must be checks and balances within government. I think that's one of the main things that the opposition should be doing, and you're executing that mandate, which is promised to the people of Guyana, that you guys are going to be there and you guys going to hold the government accountable, and there's going to be proper checks and balances, and you're executing that mandate, and kudos to you for that. Mark, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wayne Caesar. Holding the PPP accountable, which is important. Also, the people want to see how important is this contract with this contractor Gosai, because you're a trade lawyer. You need to see that.
Yes, Mark. We have taken the position that the minister is ultimately responsible. But I believe that the contract will explain and draw significant light as to the operations of this petroleum department. It will show the degree of mismanagement that is taking place in relation to this petroleum industry, on which much of the future and hopes of the Guyanese people rest on. I believe that it is a significant national issue. It is an overpowering political issue. I believe that is an issue that the government wants to drive on the cover. And I believe that the contract will disclose significant malpractices and deficiencies in the discharge and stewardship of this very important industry.
Well said. 11:31. We just got word from the Congresswoman's office. She will be on shortly, rushing out of an important meeting and into the studio with us. So we still have a couple minutes more. Mr. Caesar, do you have another question for the Honorable Roysdale Ford, who is making some waves with regards to holding the PPP accountable? And also, we should recognize that Ganesh Mahipal did the same with regards to the contract of the pump stations out there in Blackbush Polder. So kudos to Ganesh as well. You guys are operating like superstars. But we're dealing with Mr. Ford and the $214 million. Mr. Caesar, sorry to take up your time there for a minute. Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. Mr. Ford, again, we was spoke on this earlier with the influx of the Venezuelans coming into the country and everything. Um, what's your take and in your mind, what do you think is going to happen, with the Guyana Elections Commission and these migrants that is coming into the country? Do you think that they'll be allowed to be registered and would get that opportunity to vote in Guyana? I want your take on that.
Um, I believe that that is certainly the intention. And I believe that the Guyana Elections Commission will be complicit in every illegal and constitutional effort by the PPP to facilitate that. Um, when we look to see the nature of the legal framework or the legal institutions governing the process leading to voting, it is very important for us to realize that it is completely under the control of the government, of the PPP, completely under the control of the PPP. And I'm speaking about the registration of births and citizenship. So if the GCOM simply operates in a manner in which they do not have any degree of oversight over that process, it is almost a fait accompli by the time you meet to the stage of the preparation of a registered list of voters. So I see GCOM almost abandoning its responsibility to ensure that at each and every step of the way that the persons who come onto that list would be legitimate persons. I believe also it underscores the need for a realignment of the system to place it completely under the control of GCOM, to have control over the registration of births and the acquisition of citizenship, and they need to establish a comprehensive department under GCOM to govern those issues because of its close relationship with voting and persons expressing their franchise and determining a government. Secondly, I think it points clearly to the need for us to have a rigid system of biometrics at the place of poll, and ultimately the revamping of the entire voters list so that we can engage in a process of verification of citizenship, of the entitlement to vote, and the consequential registration of those persons on the voters list. But currently, I see GCOM doing nothing that would inspire the confidence of the Guyanese people, and of course myself, and I dare say the political party of which I'm a member, that we can see a fair electoral system being managed by GCOM.
Well said. 34 minutes after 11 o'clock. Mark Benchop here alongside Wayne Caesar. And this is what we have in mind. Occasionally, some mornings with you. But Mr. Roysdale Ford, looking at some of the comments, some folks are asking what's happening with the party's Congress.
Mark, I am not in a position to say when the party's Congress will be held. I don't believe that the General Council has indicated, that any General Council has been met, has been kept, and I don't believe that the Central Executive Committee of the party has decided on a date for the holding of Congress.
Interesting indeed. Mr. Caesar, any final question for Mr. Ford before he goes off to his courtroom dealings?
Yes, Mr. Ford, this one last question is going to be very short. And the word is around that you will be contesting for the leadership of the PNCR. At this time, are you in a position to confirm whether you are or not?
When, as I've said before, a previous interview, you had asked, or Mark had asked me, whether it is possible that I will be contesting for the leadership of the party. And I will repeat what I said then, because I received thousands of encouraging calls across the country and from the diaspora, probably asking me to do so and probably trying to get more information from me. The nature of the party's process to leading to contesting for any position requires that you first be nominated as a candidate. And once nominated, I believe that it's very likely that I will, in fact, contest. That is having regard to the circumstances that I know now and the need for ensuring that my party returns to government.
right, Wayne Caesar there with that ticklish question. Good morning to all of you guys. Finally, let us say Congress is held and you are elected leader of the party. What makes you a different leader?
Mark, I believe that having regard to what is unfolding in terms of the country, is that government or the party, as which we will seek to form, must establish itself as an all-inclusive organization. We must be able to establish closer and deeper relations across the length and breadth of the country. We must be able to go into our communities and articulate new policies, dynamic policies that will be able to capture the imagination of our people. We need to stop allowing the PPP to believe that they have a free run on the Guyana, free run on the Guyanese people. They must not feel that the Indians, Guyanese people are their personal property and be able to govern this country. They must not be able to believe that they can put in place poor economic plans for the development of this country and expect it to succeed while the Guyanese people stand back and suffer. We have come to this point where we need to rally around the common interest and the welfare of the Guyanese people. And I believe that I will be able, together with the party, across the length and breadth of the country and the diaspora, organize plans and programs which will lead us back to government.
All right, Roysdale Ford there for us. I know Mr. Wayne Caesar has lots of other questions, but we will have Mr. Ford hopefully sometime back soon on the evening program Straight Up, where we'll have tons and tons and tons of questions for you, Mr. Roysdale Ford. But people see no hope under the PPPC regime. Blackouts, cost of living. You're there on the ground right now. Before you go, just leave some hope, some sort of hope for all those who are listening right now and who are tired of the PPPC regime.
Mark, I believe that we are all aware of the current situation in the country, as you outlined, the blackouts, the deteriorating economic conditions, the increasing cost of living. I believe that the hope lies in the Guyanese people and finally deciding that they've had enough. And I believe that the continuous decay, deterioration of the country, the poor governance of the country, the continuous expositions of corruption on the part of the PPP is moving the people to a point where we are ready to confront the PPP. We now have to establish how we're going to do it and the leadership that is going to be necessary and the type of leadership that is going to be necessary to take us forward to be able to achieve that. So I ask the Guyanese people not to despair. I ask my party comrades not to despair. And I think that we are at such a critical stage in our development that if we allow the PPP to continue in this wanton manner, that we all will suffer for many, many generations to come.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roysdale Ford, attorney at law, also member of parliament and senior counsel of that. In the papers today, this is the main issue, and the main issue is GRA tells Exxon to amend financials over disputed. Now, I know I said finally, but before you go, exactly, can you explain this here? Wayne Caesar is the public accountant, but can you, Mr. Ford, explain this here? What do they mean amend financials over disputed US? What is it? Are they going back? Are they saying to amend it to reflect the 214? What's happening here, please? Break it down briefly for us.
From the face of it, Mark and Wayne, it seems as if GRA has dictated now and determined that Exxon must now consider itself indebted to Guyana not for 3 million US, but to add the 211 and to revert it back to the 214 million US dollars as having been the amount legitimately found by the auditing company, IHS Market, as being owed to the Guyanese people and the Guyanese government. It seems to be saying that.
Thank you. It seems to be saying that indeed. Roysdale Ford, we thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for what you're doing, holding the regime accountable. This should be done in a unified manner. There shouldn't be no split hairs, no back and forth and disunity, which is what we're seeing right now, and we don't need that. However, I take this time out to salute you and say kudos for a job well done, sir. Thank you so much this morning.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much, Wayne, and thank you to the audience for their support. Have a good morning.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Roysdale
Take
Ford,
it.
Senior Counsel there, Member of Parliament, telling it like it is and giving us a quick breakdown as to what's happening. Mr. Wayne Ford, we have a slight delay with the Congresswoman. She's running out of a meeting now, and we should be joined by her shortly. For those of you, this is the interview coming up shortly with Congresswoman Yvette Clark. What else is happening in the country, Wayne, that we can talk about? Donald Ramatar basically said, hey, the contract should be renegotiated. Irfan Ali said that basically, to sum things up, that Donald Ramatar should shut the hell up, shut his mouth up. Your take.
Okay, Mark, I'm going to answer that. But before I do so, I just want to elaborate on the request by the Guyana Revenue Authority to have those financial statements amended. That's correct. That's the proper line to take here. This is just to show that Exxon reporting practices is questionable in nature, hence the reason the request to amend. And in the amendment, we're going to be not reporting $3 million, but we're going to be reporting $240 million, which is correct. And that's the way it should be going forward. We need to make sure that Exxon is reporting correctly. And listen, they already have an excellent deal, which is very lopsided in their favor. The least they can do is to have proper financial practices, Mark, when it comes to the dealings in Guyana. You already have an excellent deal that you're winning big time, so at least you can report correctly, so listen, we have Mark, we have nurses, we have pensioners, we have teachers, we have so many people, police officers, all these different people who are being underpaid in the country, and you're going to let 211 million US dollars, which allocates to billions of Guyana dollars, just fly just like that. You can't have any respect, for your people when you do something like that. A people that is already punishing, and the Irfan Ali's statement, to the statement that Donald Ramatar would have made to have, the oil contracts renegotiated. For once, I'm going to agree with something that Donald Ramatar would have said, but that has come from the mouth of many, Mark. Even you have said it many times that, this contract should be renegotiated. So it's not something that we're now hearing, but it should be highly considered, especially since we know that it's such a lopsided deal. Exxon would have made billions already from the oil that they would have extracted from Guyana. It's time for us to start evening out a little bit here. It's time for the deal to get a little sweeter in favor of the Guyanese people, because so far they've got nothing from it, Mark. So listen, we need to fix it. We need to fix it so that the Guyanese people can benefit from it. Because listen, oil, Mark, when you extract oil, it brings issues to the whole ecosystem. Guyana is warmer than it typically is. This year was a warmer year. People are reporting that it's the warmest year they've ever experienced in Guyana. And what does that lead to, Mark? That's going to lead to a lot of rain. It's going to lead to a lot of flooding, a lot of things people are going to experience. There's going to be a lot of loss of property, I guess, down the road if these things do occur. And people need to have money so that they can replenish what's lost and these type of things. So, the Guyanese people need to start benefiting on it. Mark.
All right. 46,
and Irfan is wrong with this statement. Absolutely
46
wrong.
minutes after 11 o'clock, Wayne Caesar, they are telling it like it is. Lots and lots of wrong things indeed. Donald Ramatar has called for the contract to be renegotiated. Irfan Ali got upset and basically said, go to hell. The majority of Guyanese people are fed up of the PPPC regime. The PPPC is in trouble. And I'd like to get to this tape, and don't take what this lady is saying for granted. Do not take what she is saying for granted.
Yeah, my name is Jasity Kaldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my X next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to.
Absolutely. No more, no more, no more, no more, no. That's how people feel throughout the length and breadth of Guyana. People are tired of the corruption. People are tired of the substandard works on the roads. They are just tired. Cost of living is up. Vegetables, you name it. Every single thing that you could have paid for far cheaper just a short while ago. Every single thing is going up and up and up and up. And somebody mentioned via a conversation earlier, a phone conversation prior to the show, asking the question about this school here, Wayne. Over 200, close to $300 million spent or allotted for this school here. And this is where they are, this school out in Linden. Nothing at all, Wayne, thus far. You're not surprised that nothing and the waste of taxpayers' monies.
Mark, I am not surprised at all. This is nepotism at its highest level here from the PPPC. And listen, that's what we've been experiencing with them, for quite some time now. So listen, the ordeal just continues here. And it just shows you also what they think when it comes to education in the country, because this is an education institution that they're trying to build out here. And it appears as if they're taking their time. It looks like if this is going to take more than 5 years to be completed here. And we would have allocated $94.4 billion to the education sector. So I don't see what is taking this school this long to complete. Is there a lack of contractors? Is there a lack of labor? What is there that's going on?
Corruption.
Because there's a lot of guys out there who is looking for a job and can't find a job. Corruption, yes. The money is being allocated, but it's not going to the projects. It's being used to line the pockets of the PPPC and the inner circle of their cabal. That is exactly what is happening here. And listen, Mark, these people need to go to jail. These people need to go to jail. So if there's a change in government in 2025, listen, like I said before, I don't have no problem being on an auditing team that's put in place to audit these people and get these people in jail. You just can't do this. This is robbing the Guyanese people. You're robbing them in bright daylight. They're suffering while you're taking their money and doing whatever you please to do with it. That's just not right, Mark. And listen, we need to put a stop to this. Over to you, sir.
Yep, certainly just not right at all. 49 minutes after, just got another word from the Congresswoman's office. She's definitely going to be on. She ran, you guys know how it is, so there's no big fuss about that. The Congresswoman is no stranger to us here on 107.1 FM. She's no stranger to the Guyanese community out there in Brooklyn. She has always been there from the time she was elected as Congresswoman, from the time she was elected as Councilwoman, also out there in Brooklyn before she became Congresswoman. She knows the strength of the Guyanese community in Brooklyn. She knows that the Guyanese community come together and they go out in their numbers to elect her to become the Congresswoman in that district. And so she is running late. Congresswoman Yvette Clark will be with us in studio shortly, keeping our fingers crossed. And there are some other stuff that we want to discuss even before we have the Congresswoman on. And let us say kudos to Lincoln Lewis, who is also saying the same thing, that the contract, Lincoln Lewis, according to the Village Voice, is saying here that the contract or contracts are not written in stone. It's an agreement between parties, and as circumstances change, the parties can return to the table in good faith. Why do you suppose, Mr. Caesar, that the PPPC under Irfan Ali now is reluctant to renegotiate this contract?
Well, listen, Mark, any right thinking person would think that you don't want to renegotiate the contract. Why? Because it's a sweet contract, not just to Exxon, but a sweet contract to the hierarchy within the government side, within the PPPC side of the government, right? Basically, they are in bed with Exxon. This is the only avenue I can head down with this, because listen, if you have, Mark, the best interest of your people at heart, you would rush to the table to get this contract here renegotiated. Renegotiated, putting yourself and your people more so in a better position. Right now, Guyana has no leverage within this contract. This contract is so one-sided that it's basically a total rip-off, Mark. We've never had oil extracted before in Guyana. So when it comes to, the oil industry, for the most part, you can say that we are a learning country. So in the sector, we are, you could say, dunces then in the oil sector, because we are now learning. And we are losing while we learn. And we're losing more than we should, Mark, because of the government that is in place now. Now, Mark, let me just give you a quick breakdown here. If I am at the table negotiating a contract of this magnitude, and it's going to be this one-sided, Mark, first of all, I'm not going to sign a contract that is this one-sided. Number two, Mark, you will not extract a barrel of oil from Guyana until above 60% of your workforce is trained, ready to work in the oil sector, Guyanese. So these people win all over, Mark. They get to bring in their people for the most part. Guyanese that are working with ExxonMobil is underpaid tremendously compared to their US, Trinidadian, and other countries that have, experience in oil counterparts. So it's so one-sided, Mark. It was just badly negotiated. When you have people elected into government, they think that they know it all. They don't listen to anyone who's outside of the box and can have a better picture of what's going on. They don't listen. And that's a big issue, Mark. You even find leaders in the political parties that are not listening. They need to listen.
Over to you. At all. 54 minutes after 11 o'clock, we have a special program, and hopefully soon we will be joined by the leader of the not the leader of the opposition. He was on a few nights back, but we will be joined by Congresswoman Yvette Clark. Congresswoman Yvette Clark. She doesn't disappoint, folks, and I'm sure that she's not going to disappoint us this morning. We are not the type that get angry, get vexed. Politicians are busy. She's a congresswoman of the United States of America. And she finds time, yes, to come and chit-chat with us, tell us what's happening in her district and so forth. Tell us about some of the laws and some of the things that she's fighting for the people in her district. And a lot of those folks in her district are Guyanese people. A lot of Guyanese go out there and stand up and represent her, vote for her. And so that is why, she will be appearing this morning. And I must apologize I know we said that it was going to be 11:30, but she will be on shortly. She will be on. Don't lose sleep. The Congresswoman will be on. Good morning to all of you guys. We're scrolling through the comments. And for those of you who think that maybe we should have this sort of talk maybe every other day, so to speak, in the morning, just let us know. We may be heading to Washington, D.C. with the Honorable Congresswoman Yvette Clark, Yvette D. Clark. I always try to ask her. The D stands for Diana, it's Diane. It sounds like Guyana. Good morning to you, Congresswoman.
Good morning, Mark. It's great to be with you. And the D stands for Diane.
I know, of course, we should know that after all these years that D is for Diane. You know, I bet my
Right.
co-host this morning, Wayne Season, knows something new about you, Congresswoman. Diane, D for Diane. How are you?
Absolutely. I'm well, all things considered.
Yeah, let me just congratulate you and your colleagues for a fantastic job done with regards to seeing that there was no government shutdown. You must still be tired about by that, huh? Busy times.
Well, it's very busy times, and we averted one crisis and landed in another one. You may be aware that right now the House of Representatives does not have a Speaker of the House.
Yeah. How are you guys? How are you
And
guys managing that? No speaker. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, right now, the Republican caucus or conference is meeting to determine who their consensus candidate will be. That doesn't have any bearing on the Democratic conference. We are solidly behind Congressman Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker. So it's really left up to the Republican conference to determine who their candidate for Speaker will be, and whether in fact they have the votes in place to make him Speaker or her Speaker.
What's the likelihood that we can see some Republicans crossing the aisle to vote in favor of Hakeem, Congressman Jeffries becoming the first African American Speaker of the National Assembly? What's the possibility?
Yeah, that's it's the House of Representatives, and I don't envision that. Notwithstanding the number of members in the Republican Party that are currently representing deeply blue districts, I think that the pressures that they're under from their conference to toe the line is going to make it very difficult for anyone who would want to cross party lines to support Hakeem Jeffries to do so. What that would simply do is invite a primary against that individual. And so therefore, their whole re-election plans would be upended because they'd have to defend themselves against a candidate that runs against them for supporting Hakeem Jeffries. And we're very close to, of course, our election season here in the U.S. So I don't know that we'll see any profiles in courage at this stage.
All right, let's head straight to Brooklyn because you have a lot of your folks out in Brooklyn, Brenda Casey, Gavin Caesar, and Renee, and all of them in your district want to hear some good things that you have been doing for that district of which you are representing them. What are some of the good things we can hear about that you have done thus far?
Well, unfortunately, what I would say is the best thing that I've been able to do is really protect the interests of the people of the 9th District of New York. When my party was in the majority, we were able to deliver on an infrastructure bill that we know will yield dividends for the people of our constituency. We were able to pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which did a number of things. It set us on a path to address climate change, creating more opportunities for entrepreneurs to get into the renewable energy space, while at the same time addressing the cost of prescription drugs and, particularly insulin, which is a major challenge for the diabetics in my constituency. And, passing sort of groundbreaking legislation that hasn't been dealt with in quite some time, which was gun violence protection measures that provides funding for local community organizations to really put into place programs that would divert young people away from, activities that could lead them down a pathway to, picking up arms in our community. So we did a number of things in the last session that are yielding dividends now. But unfortunately, this Congress, I call it the do nothing Congress, because it's being led by extreme MAGA representatives, and they are anti-governance. So that, we've been basically trying to hold the line and push back on a number of draconian measures that they want to pass in order to really weaken the posture of our federal government to provide resource and support to our communities. So unfortunately, this Congress has not been as productive or as bipartisan as it should be in terms of governance. It's been politics over people time and time again. And, we really have to get out of this vicious cycle with the Republican Party. And I think that, it was ushered in with the election of Donald Trump and continues with a number of his acolytes that are in the House of Representatives now and wreaking havoc even within their own conference among themselves. They've basically broken out into a civil war within the Republican Party.
Absolutely, Congresswoman Yvette Clark. She has another engagement running out from one meeting to the next. But before we get to a quick question from Mr. Wayne Caesar, let's go to Brenda Casey out in Brooklyn. She's saying that you are having an upcoming meeting for seniors. I think it is tomorrow. Tell us briefly about that meeting tomorrow.
Yeah. Right. We're making sure that our seniors are aware of all of the resources that are available to them. And we're going to have a number of organizations that cater to the needs of our seniors in our community. I'm blessed to have two super seniors in my life, both of my parents. And I know that for many in our community, they're aging in place. The cost of living is skyrocketing. Many are on fixed incomes. So we want to be sure that our senior population has access to all of the resources that they need to stay healthy and strong and in place in our community, because their wisdom is something we cherish. Their participation in the shaping of our communities is much needed. And so I hope that folks will come to the Major Owens Community Center at the Old Armory on Bedford Avenue tomorrow between, I believe it's 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So that they can benefit from the wealth of resources that my office has arranged for them to access.
Absolutely, and I hope folks go out. Brenda Casey can share that on her page as well. We do have the flyer. We will share that information for tomorrow's event. Wayne Caesar, you have a quick question for the Congresswoman, please?
Yes, sure. And good afternoon, Madam Congresswoman. I just want to thank you. I just want to thank you for all that you do and continue to do, not just in your constituency, but in the country at large, and also, in the diaspora, Guyana included. My question to you is, what is your take on the current migrant situation in New York?
Well, there are a couple of dynamics at play here. First of all, I would say to all New Yorkers that there, but for the grace of God, go each and every one of us. Many of us are descendants of immigrants, many who, of course, came under varying circumstances. And we're operating at this stage of the development of our civil society within the context of a broken immigration system. I think it's critical that the federal government provide the resources that the Mayor Adams has been asking for, that we move expeditiously to provide these migrants with work authorization. None of them want to be a burden to our society. And unfortunately, due to the broken immigration system, these individuals are becoming a burden. And that oftentimes pits one group of New Yorkers against another. I would say that it's important that we all advocate so that these individuals can get the work authorization they need. It's my understanding that there are many amongst us now that have become eligible to seek work authorization, that we work through our nonprofit infrastructure to get them applying for that work authorization, so that as we deal with the influx of more and more migrants, those who are eligible to work will make room for those who are waiting, while the Congress works through its channels to, one, do comprehensive immigration reform, and short of that, do an expedited work authorization for those who are seeking asylum here in the United States. We need to fund the USCIS, which is the agency that has oversight for new migrants and immigrants. And then finally, we need to fix our broken immigration system. There are many who have been waiting decades now to have their status adjusted, who came through the appropriate channels, if you will, seeking an opportunity to live out their American dream. And I think that they deserve a system that expedites that for them, that our visa system is one that is equitable and looks at those who have applied and provides those opportunities for those individuals. We need a 21st century immigration system. And you may ask, well, how is that? Well, right now, we have reached almost maximum employment in the United States of America. Yet we have hundreds of thousands of job openings across the board, from corporate America to government at every level, to small mom and pop operations. They need workers. They need individuals to help them to lift their enterprises. In addition to that, we've always seen and known that immigrants are entrepreneurial themselves. They become that next generation of business owners. And so America, actually, given its founding, given its constitution, begins to die out without the influx of immigrants to its shores. We just need to make sure that we establish a protocol, a regulatory regime, and a system that creates order out of this disorder. In addition to that, I think we have an obligation in this hemisphere to work with those nations that are struggling right now, where their population is feeling under threat, is feeling, are dealing with famine, are dealing with hunger, are dealing with extreme violence, so that they can settle themselves. I think there's a significant part of the migrant population that would love to stay in their homes of origin, but it has become untenable for them. So we need to have open arms. We need to see humanity for what it is. And I remind people, that as more and more nations of color go through these challenges in their governance, we will see more and more people of color as migrants, as the United States did, back in the 19th century and the 20th century with Europeans that came to the United States of America without papers, without a doorway or a pathway to citizenship, and had to struggle their way into their American dream.
Absolutely well said on that. And good question, Mr. Wayne Caesar, there on the issue of the migrants, and proper response coming from the Honorable Congresswoman Yvette Clark. But of course, people want immigration reform. Congress has been playing around a little with that. We see the hardball coming from the Republican side. Thousands upon thousands of people are still waiting for close to 2 decades to be reunited with their families. That is in a form of a human rights violation. But how soon are we to see any sort of agreement coming for real immigration reform? Anytime soon, you think?
I don't believe that we will see it before the end of the current Congress. I know that, there have been a number of pieces of legislation, some of which I'm the prime sponsor of, that have been introduced. However, unfortunately, again, we're dealing with a Republican majority that use this as a political ploy to stay in power, as opposed to governing in a way in which it's beneficial to our nation in a bipartisan manner, to be able to make sure that the needs of our nation are met in terms of employment, in terms of knowledge and expertise. These individuals, some for varying reasons, have come together to really just say no and to say close the border. And that's no way for us to make progress in this hemisphere and in our nation in particular, when indeed we have the capacity and the ability to make a difference in this time and in this moment through immigration reform.
Well said. Tomorrow's event, I notice one of your big supporters out there in Brooklyn is saying that tomorrow's senior citizen event is going to be at Major R. Owens Health and Wellness Community Center, 1561 Bedford Avenue. It's for senior citizens. And Miss Congresswoman, I'm getting up there, myself and Wayne Caesar. We are there.
I'm getting up there too. I'm getting up there too.
Please give my regards to your mom, the Honorable Una Clark. Made us all proud. But quickly, Wayne, any other thing that you wish to add quickly, because the Congresswoman has to go?
Yeah, this is going to be short too. Madam Congresswoman, where do you see we going? I mean, we were able to get a deal done at the last minute there, October 1st, to keep the government open. Do you see a more robust deal coming to fruition before this current short-term deal expires?
Well, one of the things that we are insisting on as a Democratic caucus is that, the Republican Party keep their promises. In a vote of over 300 members, a bipartisan vote during the debt ceiling debate, the negotiation included an extension of our federal funding for the federal government. That was reneged on by then Speaker McCartney, that then brought us to what we are currently dealing with, which is the continuing resolution. Those negotiations need to be adhered to. The American people need to know that their leadership is capable of keeping their word. That is how we bring stability in a democratic civil society. However, we are also under the clock right now. And you may know that the continuing resolution, or CR as it is described, that was recently passed in the House of Representatives prior to the ousting of Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, set the clock at 45 days. Well, we're well into the 45-day clock already, which means that, until we get a Speaker, we can't take up the measures that are required to meet that deadline. So again, we may be pressed into the precipice of another government shutdown by Republicans if they don't get their act together to do true governance, bipartisan governance in the House of Representatives. So stay tuned. There's an easy way out for them, and that is to go back to the agreement that was signed with President Biden to advance our financial well-being through the debt ceiling negotiation. In lieu of that, they would need to pass a number of appropriation bills that have yet to pass on the floor of the House. But most importantly, they need to have a speaker in place to advance the legislation. Right now, we are at a standstill in terms of legislating because there's no Speaker of the House.
No, Speaker of the House, indeed. Lots of Guyanese watching. They're in your district as well. They go out, they vote overwhelmingly for you. Some of them believe that you have gone to Guyana so many times. You know Linden, you know Quarantine, you know Borbies, you know Georgetown, you know Essequibo, you know Bartica, you know Philippine. Uh, Leave them with some degree of hope in your district, please.
Well, let me say that first of all, our hope has always resided within ourselves. I am blessed to represent a constituency that has always looked out for one another. It is truly the village that raises the child. However, I want to encourage everyone within the constituency. If you have not become a citizen of the United States as of yet, I know some of you say you're going back home to Guyana, you're building your house and what have you. You need to get into this fight because right now our nation needs us. And if you've been in this nation with a green card for 5 years or more already, you are eligible to become a citizen. Please reach out to our office. We will help you navigate that because the more folks that we have franchised in our community, the more of an impact we can have on the direction that the United States takes, not only within our own communities, but on a global level. And so I want to thank my constituents, my Guyanese American community for all that they continue to do to lift up, to undergird, to protect, and to advance the interests of all of our community across the spectrum. And say that, I know that times are getting tough, particularly when we look at the cost of living in the United States of America, in New York City in particular, in the borough of Brooklyn in specific. But we have always come through. I say to people, our ancestors did much of the heavy lifting. What we have before us is almost child play compared to what they had to undergo, not being citizens, not being considered citizens, not being given the vote, their humanity always under question. We have the ability. We have the ability to vote if we so choose, if we naturalize our citizenship. Let's go out and do that and make this nation live up to its promise because of our participation, because of our talent, our skill, our expertise. We can leave for our children something much greater than what we inherited.
Folks from Guyana who are watching, who are listening to us right now, and they're saying to the Congresswoman directly, thanks for also standing up in the face of widespread discrimination and all manner of things happening to particularly Guyanese of African descent. You've been there for them, and they're saying thank you so much for standing up for them. What's happening? What's happening with the request for the posthumous pardon of Marcus Garvey? Are we getting anywhere?
Well, it has been introduced, but again, this is why voting is so very important. And I know that the Guyanese community is part of the American diaspora. We need to encourage our sisters and brothers in other parts of the country to go out and to vote, because as long as Hakeem Jeffries remains the leader of the Democrats and not the Speaker of the House, important legislation like the exoneration of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey will not be brought up in committee for debate and will not be brought to the floor for a vote. And there are many pieces of legislation, from the Voting Rights Act to the George Floyd Policing and Accountability Act to comprehensive immigration reform, that have been introduced, that have been debated, but will not be brought to the floor, unfortunately, because we're dealing with these MAGA extremists that have already demonstrated to the American people that in many ways they espouse the values of white supremacy, and therefore anything that we do, whether it's making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a part of our federal enterprise and we're holding corporations accountable, or it's dealing with online privacy issues, none of that will move as long as these individuals are there to destroy and deconstruct government as we know it.
Thank you so much, Honorable Congresswoman. Appreciate your time. Good to see you. Give my regards to your
Great to
mom.
be with you. Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Mark. Great to be with you, Wayne, and to everyone listening. Many blessings. Stay prayed up and stay strong. These are very perilous times that we're living through. But we, again, come from a strong stock of people. And that strength has brought us to this day and will carry us through.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hope to see you soon again here on 107.1 FM. Thanks.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Good. All right, the Honorable Congresswoman there, Yvette Clark. Wayne, we have some things to talk about, but let's take a quick break and be right back with more on this special program.
Small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor has some little children. I'm gonna sing it and that's really admire them. Small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor has some little children. I'm gonna sing it and that's really admire them. Yes, they're singing. Ching, ching, ching. In a bar. See for mama. Get 10 fat chickens. And ask you for one. And she won't give me one. You see that girl named Dorothy. She fat like a butter. And she maggle like a chow. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Never had some little children. I'm gonna sing it and that's really admire them. What they're singing? On your carpet, you must be like the roses. All you need.
All right, welcome back to this special program. And one of the things that I want to say to the members of our audience, this is a professional camp, so to speak. And we really do mean that. And we must reflect that on our discourse. We cannot be fighting each other and distracting each other in the comment section. As I've noticed, my friend Conrad August is telling Keith Beresford to go and eat brick, or you can make him eat concrete. How have we gotten to this level of discourse, guys? There's nobody should be telling anybody about their mothers and so forth on this program. It's not tolerated at all. So Conrad August, I know you have this fighting spirit whenever you're online. I wish you can have that fighting spirit on the ground when you're in Guyana. Let those PPP guys eat concrete. Tell those PPP guys about those derogatory things you want to tell people on this program. Conrad August, it's too late for you to say sorry. You get the award. You're my friend, but you get the award this morning. Unless Wayne Caesar said don't give it to you. Wayne, what do you think? We should give him the award?
We're gonna give Conrad a pass today, Mark.
Man.
Come on, Conrad. You know better than that. And of course, the Honorable Mr. Keith Beresford, that's my friend here. Conrad, let's tone it down.
We've got to do better than tell people they're gonna eat brick, they're gonna eat concrete. Look, Wayne, people are saying, how many of you guys think that Conrad should get the award this morning? Brenda Casey is saying he should get it. Wayne say that he shouldn't get it. How many of you guys, because he told one of our ardent supporters here on Benchop Radio, listener, Keith Beresford, he cursed Keith about his mother. He told Keith about his mother. It is unacceptable. We wouldn't have that. Then he wants to fight with Keith, tell Keith that Keith going to eat concrete and all manner of things. How many of you guys think that Conrad August should get the award this morning? I think he should get the award. Wayne said no. Brenda Casey said yes. Others are saying what? Let's go. We have a vote.
Well, Mark,
one second, Wayne. 1 second. Let's ask Conrad if he thinks he should get the award. Go ahead, Wayne.
No, I would have to withdraw my vote because I don't agree with anybody, telling someone about their mother. That's a very touchy
Yeah,
situation. So I
yeah.
would have to
Yeah,
withdraw.
he has to get the award. Let's
Yeah.
wait another 30 seconds to see how many. Patricia Asane is saying he should be warned. Everybody's saying he should get the award. He's saying Kamani apologize. He's begging.
Okay.
Conrad, please don't do that. Keith is a good guy, or anybody. Just don't tell them about their mothers and so forth. If we're going to have disagreements, at least it should be in a respectful manner. And so, since Wayne Caesar got back from his no to his yes, I am going to go back from my yes to a no. Right? So we'll give him a pass this morning. We will give him a pass. Mr. Caesar, your take on the Congresswoman, your take on it. Because wait a minute, Keith Beresford has accepted his apology, accepted Conrad August's apology. Let's move on. Yeah. So
Yes.
hey, but before we move on, people really frighten the donkey. They frighten the award. Imagine Conrad is so afraid that Conrad doesn't back down. But look, our friend Brenda Casey say, Mark, you're soft. I am soft, Brenda. That's okay. I'm a soft guy, right? What is your take on the Congresswoman's
Yeah.
interview?
Well, listen, Mark, Yvette Clark, her appearance in the room is always, she's always empowering, and that is what occurred, on the show here just a few moments ago. You see how she answered all the questions brilliantly. She knows what she's talking about. She's on the ground with our people. She knows our constituency very, very well. And listen, Yvette Clark deals with a complex constituency because she is right in the melting pot of Brooklyn, Mark. So she's dealing with people from all walks, all ethnicities, and listen, she has a good understanding of the issues that are affecting, people, not just in her constituency, Mark, but those issues apply across the country. And that's what makes her who she is, an imposing figure in Congress, where a lot of people listen to her because they know that the Honorable Congresswoman Miss Yvette Clark, she brings it, and that's what we got here. She brought it,
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
And I like the question with regards to the migrants and the immigration reform. And she is actually saying to people that, look, you need to go out and become citizens. If you're here for more than 5 years, go out and become a U.S. citizen so that you can vote. Voting is important. How do you guys want immigration reform? If you don't have a majority in Congress, you wouldn't be able to get these bills passed. And that is what the Congresswoman was actually saying. And for those of you, you don't have to wait for 5 years before you apply for your citizenship. If you're married to a U.S. citizen, you could do that in 3 years as well. If you have been living in the U.S. Before you attain the age of 18, and you came here as a immigrant, meaning a green card holder, and one or both of your parents are U.S. citizens, do you know you're entitled for your U.S. passport as well? You don't have to apply. You don't have to wait until that 5 years. It's called deriv. You derived your citizenship from your U.S. citizen parent. All these things you need to know and you can do in order to vote in the next elections right over here. We do that as well. If you have immigration matters and issues, give me a call and we will attempt to rectify the problem or problems or lead you into the right direction. We will do that. Wayne Caesar, you were about to say something, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you just stole my thunder there. I was just gonna say to our listening audience, you have a friend, it could even be you yourself, that is not a citizen. We have our immigration consultant here, slash criminologist, Mr. Mark Benchap, who is the anchor here and my colleague. Just reach out to him and he will assist you, whether it is that you need knowledge as to what to do, whatever it is, Mark can help you, so don't be shy, just reach out and he will assist you.
Absolutely, don't be shy. I know Conrad August, tired of ducking and running and living the life of ducking and running and living. Conrad, give me a call, man. I could point you in the right direction. I'm just throwing some concrete stones there at Conrad, who has been a bit mischievous, a bit naughty in the comment section, teasing our friend Keith and so forth. But it has been resolved. We will be back later on this evening on 107.1 FM. We can talk about the lack of party unity and the fight down and all these manner of things. It has got to stop one way or the other. Before we go, though, Mr. Wayne Caesar, your closing remarks, sir.
Yeah, my closing remarks, Mark. I just want to go back to Guyana for this. As Mr. Ford would have said, with the influx of Venezuelans, we have a lot of firearm experts coming into Guyana. We don't know, Mark, if these people, because Venezuela's always had somewhat of a robust military. We don't know if these individuals are military experts that could be coming and seeking out and doing their logistical works in Guyana. And listen, I look at this, Mark, as the PPPC, promoting a terroristic act against their own people, the Guyanese people. Because, Mark, this could lead, when you have over 100,000 Venezuelans in the country, there's a chance that there could be about 15 to 20,000 Venezuelan militants in the country. You could be having Guyanese being executed right and left. Right? We don't have possession of the weapons that these guys could get across the border. Our borders are porous. We need to do something about that. This install regime is not moving to do anything. It looks like if they just want to concede Essequibo, amongst other things, to the Venezuelans. And that's a display of absolute power there by absolute and power of a dictator there by Barjagdio, And as Mark would have said earlier, I am agreeing with Mark here that he should be tried and possibly convicted for treason. His actions are very treasonous, And listen, the posture of this government is treasonous. The entire government, Mark, because you're not looking after your people, and then you're just having people come through the borders without vetting them correctly. You have all this money flowing into your economy. The taxpayers continue to be bleeded for their taxes, and there's nothing being done for them. So I don't know where we are going here, but we need to figure out something, and we need to figure it out quickly. Yep. Quickly. And I say this to the Guyanese people, Mark. You see, we were talking about oil and how critical the 2020 elections was, but this time, Mark, the oil is still here, but we're dealing also with the influx of Venezuelans into our country. So instead of having one issue now, we have multiple issues to deal with. So it is so critical that all Guyanese become registered and be ready to vote. Listen, the balance of power has been, it's been looking like if the balance of power is with the government because they're just dictating and doing whatever they feel like. But the balance of power should be with the people, because it is the people who elects the government to work for them. This government was installed, it wasn't elected. And I would have thought that they would have tried, to win over the people by executing on behalf of the people. But this is a transactional government. This is a business-oriented government. This is a corrupt-oriented government. So you have to get them out of there, and you have to get them out of there quickly before Guyana become indebted to the point that it's going to take a lifetime for us to recover. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. That's the end. 36 minutes after 12 o'clock. We've got to go. We'll be back this evening. Hopefully, I'll find a guest for this evening's program. Not sure if that person is yet, but thank you guys so much for your time, and we do appreciate it. We're also thankful to Mr. Roysdale Ford, who showed up this morning, also Congresswoman Yvette Clark as well. And to all of you guys, thank you so much. God bless you. See you this evening. Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mark. Have a good day, everyone.
Bright and shining, you must be, and show me the one. Love the best. When I marry, I give you the ring. First the girl, second the boys. Sunday, Monday, afternoon. We will spend our honeymoon. Oh, smallness is still on my mind. Smallness is a good time. Neighbors, some little children. I'm gonna sing another dance, that's really admire them. Join the singing. Old man house on fire. The old man ran away. He ran for the police to get the water. The only fire down there. Escalated, shoot, shoot, shoot. Escalated, shoot, shoot, shoot. And I wipes the lady face. The lady wipes the lady face. And she fell down, and she fell down, and she fell in the ocean too. Oh, smallness is still on my mind. Smallness is a good time. Neighbors, some little children. I'm really singing on the dancers, really admire them. Hear them singing, children, children. Yes, where you been?
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Some little children. I'm gonna sing it on the dancers, really admire them. Smallness is still on their mind. Smallness is a good time. Neighbors, some little children. I'm gonna sing it on the dancers, really admire them. Yes, they're singing. Ching, ching, ching. In a bar. See for mama. Get 10 fat chickens. And ask you for one. And she won't give me one. You see that girl named Dorothy. She fat like a butter. And she muggle like a chow. Oh, smallness is